Who's first?
Go ahead. I thought you were going to open with a statement.
No.
Okay.
I'm here to answer any questions.
You are James O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
I'm Skylar with the Post Courier here in town.
Okay.
So what triggered you to follow or to bring in Crystal Matthews? What prompted you to do that in the first place?
Well, we have sources that come to us, whistleblowers. Go to veritastips@protonmail.com, and we got tipped off about Matthews. We did not seek her out. A source sought us out, and sources come to Project Veritas. It is intriguing to me that the source that came to us came to Project Veritas, and for example, not you guys.
Well, when you set up the interview with her in the restaurant, on the tape you released today, what did you come forward as? What was the reporter or whoever it was billing themselves as?
Do you usually ask those questions of the New York Times and the Washington Post reporters when they release information?
Well, I mean, you didn't come to there saying I'm a reporter from Project Veritas.
Do you usually ask those questions to the New York Times and Washington Post reporters?
No, I'm asking you that.
Why don't you ask them that?
I've never interviewed a New York Times reporter.
Because
no, really.
you don't ask journalists about their sources and methods.
No, but did you set it up underneath a premise?
And I wouldn't ask you about your sources and methods either.
Well, you're not going to tell me if you set up underneath a premise that wasn't Project Veritas?
You wouldn't.
Was it somebody else besides Project Veritas that you built yourself?
Right. A source came to Project Veritas with the tape that you saw a few months ago, or actually, what was it? Early in the summer.
Correct.
And that tipped us off. Okay. And we did some more corroborating. We sent some more reporters out to get more information, and you could see her in her own words, and our reporting speaks for itself. You could see video of what she said, which is really a standard much higher than any other journalist. And we don't ask you to trust us by virtue of the decree that we're trusted. We show you the videotape. Which again, since you're asking journalistic, ethical questions about sources and methods, we show you firsthand evidence that's incontrovertible of her lips moving. You can hear her voice in these series of tapes that we've done. We don't just quote people anonymously.
When was the interview held?
It was held recently, last couple months, and we were corroborating what a source brought to us at veritastips@protonmail.com.
And where was the interview?
What do you mean, where was it?
What location? What was the name of the restaurant?
We won't necessarily divulge that.
Was Matthews aware it was an interview, or was she?
Well, she was aware she was being spoken to and questioned, yes.
Was she aware she was being recorded?
I'm not sure that she was aware she was being recorded.
Have you seen her press release?
I have. I just read it, actually. And we stand by our reporting. And she said what she said. And, you know.
Did you see the part where she said the whole audio wasn't released? Is that accurate? Was the entire audio released? Or
do you release your full audio? Do you ever release your reporting notebooks?
Well, she's saying, I'm asking a question.
I understand, but you would never ask a journalist to release their full audio. You guys don't release your full. ABC News doesn't release their full video.
I understand
you
that,
guys,
but she's saying the audio was taken out of context, so I'm asking, was
right.
the audio taken out
we
of
don't
context?
Take anyone, we don't take anyone out of context. She said what she said. She said, quote, you've got to treat them, white people, like shit. Those were her words. They came out of her mouth. Are you going to ask her what she meant by that?
I have.
What did she say?
She's not responded to me.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking you about the press release.
Yes, we don't. This was fully in context. She said what she said. It was not edited improperly in any way. In fact, you can hear her voice, which is a standard far above and beyond any other reporter who shows you information anonymously sourced and asks you to trust them by virtue of their decree that they should be trusted. Project Veritas operates with a much higher standard in news. We show you the audio tape, we show you the videotape. And she said what she said, and we stand by it.
All right.
Anything else? Okay.
What are you calling for with Crystal Matthews? Are you calling for her to resign?
I'm not calling for anything. I'm calling for information to get out to the public. I'm calling for there to be a renaissance of journalism. I'm calling for the press to expose what's going on, what people actually believe. That's what Project Veritas' mission is, to expose waste, fraud, abuse, corruption. I'm calling for more sources in South Carolina to come to veritastips@protonmail.com, just like the source who came to us initially with the recording of Crystal Matthews, it wasn't me that sought out Matthews. It was a source here in Charleston.
Back up on one thing.
Yeah.
When your source interviewed her at the restaurant, how did that person identify themselves?
Why do you keep asking me questions about sources and methods?
Well, I'm just, what was it a correct and accurate representation of what media outlet they represented themselves as when they spoke to her and set up the appointment?
Repeat your question?
How did the person who set up the appointment with Crystal Matthews identify themselves?
The source?
How did they represent themselves as representing what news source when they sat down with her?
The source that came to us initially, the whistleblower?
No, the person that she was talking to in the restaurant.
Well, I'm not going to identify how our whistleblowers or how our sources interacted with the subject.
I know, but you
that
did
would-
just say you
yeah.
you hold yourself to a higher standard.
I sure do, by releasing the
So-
audio tape, by releasing the videotape of the events in question. When you read the newspaper, you see quotes, according to people familiar with the situation, you don't hear any audio. You don't see any raw reporters' notebooks. So what you're asking me to do violates a journalist's code of ethics. I will not do that. I will not jeopardize or I will not put our sources in jeopardy who fear retaliation by coming forward with the information about Matthews. You're asking me to violate a journalist's stated ethics by releasing my full raw notes or even
We're just asking how they
and
identified
I'm
themselves.
answering you that when you read the newspaper or your newspaper, you see according to people familiar with the situation, according to people briefed on the matter. You don't see audio tape. What we're presenting you here is Matthews in her own words, and I'm not calling for anything. It's up to the people of South Carolina to make decisions about what they intend to do, about what she has said. And I sure hope the press here places as much heat and as much skepticism and as much passion towards your elected representatives as you do towards the sources and methods questions against Project
But your
Veritas.
spokesman today confirmed to me, said that the person that interviewed identified themselves as a journalist. Did they identify what journalistic outlet they were working for when they set up the interview?
I'm not sure why that would even matter.
Well, it's a question, and you're not going to answer it, it sounds like. It matters because I'd like to know.
What matters is the statements that came out of Crystal Matthews' mouths. Quote, I'm just looking for the quote. Let me tell you one thing, you ought to know who you're dealing with, and this is her words, you got to treat them, white people, like shit. That's the only way they'll respect you. That's what matters. The words that came out of her mouth is what matters, and we stand by our reporting.
No,
We
you
stand
just
by our
said
reporting.
that you guys hold yourself to a higher standard
We
by
do.
releasing that full recording. Matthews is asking you to release that full recording.
I'm sorry,
Well, you-
I never said that I was going to release the full raw reporter's notebooks. Never said that. You just put words in my mouth.
You said that you release more than a typical recording.
I sure do.
Yes.
Yes.
Now Matthews is calling for you to release that entire videotape. Are you going to do that as well by holding yourself to that higher standard?
No reporter releases their full raw reporter's notebooks ever. That never happens.
So then how are you holding yourself to a higher standard as a reporter by not fulfilling their request?
By showing Matthews in her own words so that you can hear the intonation in her voice. I'm not asking you to trust me. I could have quoted her anonymously. I could have said, according to people familiar with the situation, Matthews was saying this, but then people like you would not have believed me. People like you would not have believed me. So I showed you the audio tape, and I showed you videotape from within a jail. You could actually see her face in the recording released last time. That's a standard above and beyond what most reporters do. And that's why Project Veritas rises above the standards of most journalists. Anything else? Anything else?
Any other questions for me? I interviewed Crystal Matthews last go around.
Yes, I guess. What was that interaction like?
You can watch the video yourself. I could characterize it, but I think I would not do it justice.
You were the journalist in the restaurant then?
No, I interviewed her on camera as a reporter my last time in Charleston. So you can watch that interaction.
Okay.
You might understand more about Miss Matthews. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.